Welcome back to the Stirling Business Podcast from Studio King Street in the city centre of Stirling. Today we've got an interesting guest with a different bit of content, really. The community kitchen in the city centre of Stirling, the kitchen at 44. So Sara Macmillan, founder of Kitchen at 44. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. Thank you for having me.
So thanks for coming along. Intrigued to have the listeners hear a little bit more about the Kitchen at 44 and what that actually is, the community project that you have in the heart of Stirling here in King Street. We're in the same, even in the same street. So before we get into that specifically, who is Sara Macmillan? What's your background, and where did you come from before you went into this particular venture?
Okay, I'm originally from Glasgow. I moved through here back in 1998 when I married a man from Stirling. My first job was with Prudential, which is similar to many people in the area. I started out in St Vincent Street in Glasgow, but after moving through here, I moved to Scottish Amicable, and I worked there until 2008 when my eldest son was at primary school and was coming up for the first summer holiday. And I had no support system in terms of trying to get through 8 weeks of summer holiday and childcare. So I gave up work. I gave up work at Prudential.
Okay.
So that we could focus on a better work-life balance. And I was a stay-at-home mum for 4 or 5 months before I thought about starting a small kitchen table business. I can bake. There was a surge of soft plays opening up in the area at the time, which kind of aligned with my life at the time. And I started baking cakes in the house and selling them to local cafes and soft plays.
Right, so that's how I never knew that. So that's how you got started.
No, that's how I got started, yes.
Right, okay.
So that was at the end of 2008. And in 2012, an opportunity came up at the coffee shop at Cowan's Hospital. Mm-hmm. It came up for rent, and I took the leap then of taking the business out of the house. The way Cowan's Hospital is set up, we had an additional space, an additional room, so the boys could come with me, and it let me manage childcare and my own business. And between 2012 and 2015, I ran quite a successful coffee shop in Cowan's Hospital all year round. It was especially busy over the summer. The boys would come with me, and we managed it brilliantly. It was an opportunity to let me expand what I was doing without giving up the work-life balance element of spending time with my kids. Mm-hmm. The primary school is on the hill on the way up to Cowan's Hospital. I would take the boys to take the boys to school in the morning, and then they would walk up at the end of the day and join me at the coffee shop.
Wow, okay. So that was your first venture into starting your own business?
Yes.
Way back in,
2008, essentially. Yeah, okay. It was very small to start with. I mean, we were talking maybe 20 cakes a week, 20 sort of cafe-style cakes. But it snowballed and it grew.
But it sounds like from that point and now, with the Kitchen 44, which we'll come on to, you did a whole raft of other stuff in the middle as well.
Yes,
so where did
definitely.
That all start to evolve?
So 2015, the building that the Cowan's Trust ran got into financial difficulty, and they had to close. So that was the end of the coffee shop. It all happened very quickly. There was 5 weeks' notice. So we decided, when I say we, my sounding board of a husband who is and has been phenomenally involved in what I do the entire duration. We took a unit down at Step, we converted it into a commercial kitchen, we looked at catering, we had friends at the time who had a small food truck, Loving Food. Many people in Stirling remember Hervey, the food truck. Stoops and Sandra had just reached the point where they were starting their own family, and the food truck wasn't something that was suitable for them and a baby. We took over the food truck and we ran a small catering company between 2015 and 2018. Mm-hmm.
You used to do events and
Yes.
kind of
Do you know,
outdoor events and things.
Yes, outdoor events, took Hervey to fields, do you know, served breakfast burritos in fields. We did some phenomenally fun things with Hervey. It was absolutely brilliant. And then I had a bit of a health crisis. I became seriously ill, which then curtailed everything back down, which was it wasn't ideal, but it was something that we could do because it was our business. And then as I started to recover, the boys were then at secondary school. We had a bit more flexibility. I had more opportunity to do just exactly what it was that I wanted. By that point, I'd been living up at the top of the town for over 15 years. I had become involved in the community up there in the community council. I'd taken part in a huge consultation in 2016, just looking at what the community wanted. And I started to incorporate that into what it was that I was doing. My friend Jo Hall, who runs Creative Stirling, had started to investigate, expanding her operation. And when she started talking to me about renting 44 King Street, we started discussions on what food could be incorporated into 44 King Street. And, very quickly, my whole vision expanded in terms of the community aspect of what it was that we were doing. And I picked out things that the community had asked for in 2016 and decided to try to wrap it up into a package and take into 44 King Street. And that is essentially how the kitchen at 44.
Wow, okay. So social impact is obviously something that you're very passionate about. I can see that. I've known you for a while now, and giving back your time and giving back to the community has always been a very big part of Sara. So I've kind of noticed that over the last few years. Didn't quite appreciate where that had come from, but now that kind of makes complete sense. The 2016 consultation and kind of where we are today. So what is the kitchen at 44? What was the vision for it? I think we know a little bit about that from what you've just said. But if you can tell us a little bit about the kitchen at 44 and what the objective of it is and what you're doing there now.
Okay, so it's a community interest company, which is a limited company. It's a company limited by guarantee, but it also has this additional feature to it where we have decided and promised that any profits that are generated will be put back into essentially the social cause that we have defined. And we've made it quite broad. It's any of the social impacts that are created by the food that we eat. So we look at things like food insecurity, we look at access to food, we look at the environmental impact of food, access to food, just anything that impacts us by the daily choices that we make or are unable to make when it comes to the food that we eat. Food is something that we're all impacted by in some way or another. And it's also something that can be used as a tool to help address other issues within the community. And we've got quite a broad remit. And that's where we are right now, is we're looking at ways in which we can progress things, improve things, move things forward for our very local community at this moment in time, but the broader Stirlingshire community.
So would you say a lot of what you do is research based in terms of how the impact of food can have on different kind of demographics and families and things like that?
Very
so
much
a lot of it's
so.
kind of internally kind of research based, is it?
Yes, yeah.
And then you have the external kind of facing side of the project, if you like, as well.
Very much so. There's a huge amount of research on all aspects of food and food policy. And nothing that we do is random, based on how we're feeling in the morning. A lot of what we're doing right now is funded. And if you're applying for funding through a grant-giving organisation or public money, what you're doing has to be sensible, and it has to be grounded in a defined need. We do look at research. We do work with other organisations who have the expertise to start to define agendas. So yes, very much so. There is research behind most of what we do. If not all.
So how long have you been open for business, if you like, and kind of how is it going in the early days?
We initially opened in 2020 to meet a very urgent need during the pandemic. We had a space that was controlled entirely by us, which was an unusual set of circumstances to be in the pandemic. There was an awful lot of uncertainty and there was an awful lot of fear, and very rightly local authorities across the country shut things down. So services closed. And I'm not meaning that as a criticism in any way whatsoever. It was absolutely the right thing to do. But what we had was a space and we had the autonomy to make the decisions. So we looked at what was quite an urgent early need in March 2020. The community in which I live, a lot of the people that we spoke to on a daily basis were employed in the hospitality industry. It's quite a normal thing to exist in a sort of central urban area. And in the second and the third week of March, hospitality industries got some very vague advice from the government. We were advised not to go out, but the businesses were advised to stay open. And my husband and I called into a local pub the week before the first lockdown, and we were the only people there for the
sounds like Alistair.
For the entire duration. There was 3 staff and the 2 of us. People stopped going out, and businesses, had every right to feel an uncertainty and a fear. Hotel bookings in the area closed down. Some of the larger hotels made redundancies before the furlough scheme had been announced. So we could speak to people locally, and we saw that there was a fear, that there was a panic. People were uncertain as to how they were actually going to survive, how they were going to pay the bills, how long was this going to last. The uncertainty was everywhere, and through organisations that I had been working with up until that point, I knew I could access surplus food. Surplus food is quite a well-known phenomenon now. It was less so in 2020. And do
you mean surplus instead of it going to waste?
Yes, sorry, exactly that. Yes.
Yeah, okay.
So I had an organisation that I had been doing some work with had sent me through an email. And it was a request from Marks and Spencer's. Marks and Spencer's in both Stirling and Dunblane at that point didn't have a source for their surplus food. They were throwing out, sometimes extraordinary quality food in extraordinary quantities. And they were looking for organisations to take this food and put it to use. So on the Saturday before the first lockdown had been announced, it was announced on the Tuesday. On the Saturday, I wandered down to Marks and Spencer's in Stirling and I said, look, rather than throw this food out, I can take it. I wheeled it on a wee trolley from Marks and Spencer's up to 44 King Street. And I just started sending out messages. We put a post on Facebook. I sent out messages to people that I know in the community. And I said, look, I have this gorgeous Marks and Spencer's food. It's perfect condition. We could have bought it an hour ago. I have it if you want to come and collect it. If you can use it, you can have it. And we got, a great turnout the first night. The second night, not so much. People...
Did you cook any of it, or was it?
No. We just handed it off exactly as it was. We collected it in insulated boxes, so people got it sort of still chilled, perfectly safe. The second night, a sort of a sense of embarrassment started to creep in. People don't want to have to rely.
Yeah, it's like a food bank, and people don't really want to have to admit to using that.
Yes,
facility.
So yeah. Alistair and I, we ended up putting the food in the car. We went up and we knocked on doors. But again, we got rid of all of this food the second time.
Is there any reason why Marks and Spencer's didn't do something like that themselves, or did they just not?
I think it's a resource issue, and a lot of success of projects and communities is because it's run by people from the communities who know the communities, and by 2020, I had been here for 22 years. I know people. I'd sat on community councils with people in the community. The coffee shop had been in the community. I had a network of people, and if I didn't know people who could benefit specifically myself, I knew someone who knew them, and that was the sort of the ripple effect that that got essentially the project up and running. And within a week, lockdown had been announced. People had rules in which they could go shopping, and Marks and Spencer's specifically, it wasn't a whole shop store. So they very quickly found that their customer base dried up as people went to Tesco's or Sainsbury's or Morrison's, where they could buy their toothpaste, their toilet roll, if you could find toilet roll. So within a very short space of time, we were filling a transit van full of Marks and Spencer's food to the brim, and then taking that van back down to get a second load. And when we started posting these massive hauls of food from Marks and Spencer's on Facebook, it became more about actually the community needs to help save this food, as opposed to we as an organisation were trying to save anyone or anything. And the reach of that project grew really fast, and the project it ran for 4 years. I worked with Transition Stirling.
Okay.
When the shop front that we were using at 44 King Street was needed back for Maiden Stirling, a local businessman gave us a shop to continue the project. I took a step back after a year because that wasn't the nature of what I actually wanted to do. I wanted to get in there and get my kitchen up and running. But Stirling Community Food was the result of
that was the name of it? Stirling Community?
Stirling Community Food. And it ran until December 2024.
Brilliant. It's a fabulous story. Yeah. And you can now see where the community connection comes pretty strongly in that. Okay, so we roll back, forward to the current day. So the Kitchen at 44. Your famous Monday nights, your community dinners on Monday nights. You talk to us a little bit about that. I can testify they're absolutely fantastic, and the quality of the food is amazing. So, how did that come about? The community dinners on Monday nights.
So that was funding that we applied for in conjunction with Creative Stirling. It was the UK Shared Prosperity Fund, which was administered by Stirling Council. It's not a huge amount of money. We got under £7,000 for 6 months to run the project. But at the time, when we applied for the funding, our community here in the top of the town was in a bit of a slump. I say the top of the town, it's the Market Crossing city centre. It covers the whole of the bottom of the city centre. It's a strange community. There's 3,500 people,
that's a lot.
roughly, live within the area. But at any one time, almost half of those can be students. And they're transient. Some of them are here for just simply 9 months for the academic year. Some of them are here for 2 or 3 years as they rent somewhere and they stay for the majority of their degree. But they are a transient population. And the permanent residents and the students, they often at times have very different priorities, and it makes it difficult to actually measure. We talked earlier about how things are based on evidence. It makes it difficult to measure the normal statistics that you would look for within a population if you're trying to identify highlights or problems. So this transient population, it means that there are issues within our area that can sometimes get missed. Areas of deprivation, of poverty, they're minimised because these transient students, they skew the statistics.
And a lot of them live in the city centre or on the periphery.
Yes. So there's a lot of issues within our local community that we're aware of, but statistically we fall short in order to actually, sort of have regular assistance. And it makes actually targeting these communities or pockets of people, it makes it difficult. So the community sometimes has a sense of cohesion, and then at other times that all falls away. And in the second half of last year, we were definitely in a slump. So when we applied for that funding, what we said we would do is just simply try to work on a bit of community spirit, that we would build a regular once a week coming together of people. So we didn't really set an agenda for the community meals.
Or a target demographic. It was pretty open.
It's open to anybody that lives in the geographical area. Yes. So really what we wanted to do was to pull people in and to just to get people out involved in something. And that was the hope that would start some conversations. And yes, we started off slow. On the first night, we got 9 people turn up. Now we have regularly, we've got more than 30. There are, somewhere between 40 and 50 individuals who drop in and out on a weekly basis. And we do. We've got conversations starting. I mean, we don't drive them. It's not really, sort of the ambition of that project to start to look at agendas or improvements, or we just want to create the opportunity and the space. But, sort of change is starting to be talked about.
Yeah, and I've noticed that, because I've been a couple of times to check things out, and I've noticed the conversation and some of the kind of friendships and what have you are developing, so much so that there's some people basically come and make it that kind of regular kind of meeting point on a Monday night.
Yes,
they get the dominoes out, they have a game of dominoes together, and they'll maybe have a drink at the end of it somewhere before they toddle off home. So it's a fantastic initiative. So okay, so you were talking about the current project being funded.
Yep.
You've got funding for that, and a big part of the Monday night community dinners as part of that. Obviously, that's not sustainable, longer term. So what are the plans from a funding perspective going forward, and how can the Stirling community help in any way with regards to supporting that?
Our ultimate goal is to try to be self-sufficient. We have this beautiful space, and it is beautiful. We held out, and part of the reason that it's taken so long to get to this point is because we were very insistent that we wanted, a space. We wanted to build a space that people wanted to spend time in. A lot of kitchens are very utilitarian and they're not user-friendly. We wanted it to be, sort of somewhere that people enjoy. We're looking at introducing very, very soon a programme of leisure and pleasure classes that we're looking to sell. And we want to sell them at a price, not ridiculously expensive. There are some sort of cook schools where, yes, second mortgages may be required. We're not looking at that. We're looking at lovely afternoon out kind of price territory.
Perfect proximity to our hotel.
Yeah, definitely.
Some of our guests would love that, I'm sure.
So we're looking to sell classes, just classes for fun. You can come and learn how to make a Victoria sponge, learn how to make a scone, learn how to make a roast dinner.
What about haggis?
Haggis.
The Americans might like that.
They might lap that up. Yeah, there is a haggis experience out in Blair Drummond.
Right,
we might talk to them. I have it on my list of things, potentially. But yes, we're looking at a range of classes that we could sell for profit, and we would be able to use those profits to run things for the benefit of our community.
Brilliant. Okay. Right. So I think we've kind of covered most of the points that I had on my list in terms of kind of some of the specifics with regards to the kitchen and how it evolved and where it came from. And we've talked a little bit about kind of objectives going forward. So if you put yourself in that seat in 3 years from now, where would you like to, and you look back and there was a headline that you could see on the Stirling Observer front page, what would it say? What would you like your legacy to be over the next few years from the kitchen?
I think sort of achieving self-sufficiency and driving our own set of circumstances that would be, sort of driven by what the community ask for, would be the ultimate goal. We're not looking to try to save or to change anything ourselves. We just want to create the opportunity for these things to evolve and happen naturally, as people want them to happen. So to be honest with you, I'm not looking for a big headline. We don't we don't want to create something that makes the news. we want to create something that the community love.
That's nice. That's a very nice, humble way of saying what you've just said there. So, Sara, you're an inspiration. You've always been an inspiration to me, though, but I'll tell you that regularly. But
that's just because I got up early in the morning.
Yeah, you get up early and you come to do podcasts early in the morning, and you come to serve our guests beautiful breakfasts as well. So, where can they find more information out about the Kitchen at 44?
So, I'm a middle-aged, not particularly tech-savvy individual. Facebook is my default. I do have ambitions and plans to just get
start doing TikTok videos.
To get a bit better, yeah. It's on the list, but it's not easy, is it?
So you have a Facebook page?
We've got a Facebook page. Yeah. We have an Instagram page. And at the minute, that's the main.
And is it the Kitchen at 44? Is that the...
I think no, I don't think. I do know the Facebook page is the Kitchen at 44 King Street.
Okay.
Instagram, just to confuse everyone, is the Kitchen at 44.
Fantastic. Okay, well, thank you for coming along, Sara. Brilliant story. You're doing wonders for the Stirling community. So, as a business in Stirling, we, I certainly appreciate it, and I'm sure a lot of other local businesses and local residents do as well. So, thank you for what you do, and we'll speak to you again soon.
Brilliant. Thank you.
Thank you again for joining the Stirling Business Podcast. Fantastic guest this week with Sara Macmillan, the founder of the Kitchen at 44. A great testament to what she's doing for the local community here in Stirling and supporting the, the kind of food initiatives that, that in a lot of cases we don't fully understand and acknowledge. So thank you, Sara. So until next time, thank you very much for joining the Stirling Business Podcast.